Mhm.
Well, good morning. Happy Thursday. Here we are again. We didn't do it last week. It was the first week of the
No, I
month.
went on the luxury home tour.
You did. How was
I
that?
did. It was interesting. There was I feel like I'm living in 1998,
Really?
like in terms of what I think everything should cost.
Oh, I get that.
And so
I get
I'm
that.
like, gas should be $1. My house should cost me $400,000.
Right.
And so I was just looking at all of the different houses, and I walked into one that was 3.85 million that had shag carpet in the basement. And I was like, if I'm spending this kind of money, like
Right.
I want perfect.
Yes.
And so it's amazing to me how expensive some of these houses are. And it was like,
Yeah.
it was everything ranging from new construction in Wash Park
Right.
down to old Cherry Hills Village that needed updating, that were between 2.5 and $4 million.
2.5 to 4. That's the starting point, isn't it?
Yeah.
With the luxury home
With
tours?
the
Yeah.
luxury home tour, to be on tour, you have to be 2.5 million or more.
I did the Saturday blog this last week is 5 million enough to retire on? And I had several people like going, are you trying to give me anxiety?
Yeah.
I
know.
I started kind of like palpitating about it this weekend. I started thinking about it. I was like, oh my gosh, are the rentals going to get there? Are we set up? I'm asking Peter to run all the numbers. And I went back and I looked at my first Colorado home. We bought it for 300,000, and I thought that was insane. It is now worth 950. Yeah. And I'm just like, and it's this tiny little, like 1972, nothing.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So I'm with you there. I am totally with you there. So this quote is going to come a little bit left of center, but it was really powerful to me. So I had coffee with a girlfriend I've known for years and years and years, Keely Hawk. And thank you for spending time with me. And she said something that I actually found a quote for it. And then I want to tell you a little bit about where she was coming from. So the quote I found is from Craig Ferguson. He's a late night TV show host, if you don't know him. And he says, I try to live my life in bite-sized chunks. When I was talking with Keely, we talked about the fact of getting overwhelmed by either the news, the market, the clients that want to take breaks, the sellers that are getting frustrated because they wanted to come out to market too high, all the things, trying to redesign how you do your business, how to achieve and get those clients in your funnel, how to set yourself up for success for 2024. It's a lot.
Yeah.
On top of the stress that I started out the week with, is $5 million going to be enough for retirement? Like, I've just been like, oh my gosh, thinking about all the things. And she said, you have to parse your focus, right? She goes, you need bite-size whys. And I just loved that. And I've just been kind of thinking about that since she said it. It was like, okay, you don't have to do all the things. I don't have to have the purpose behind all the things, because I'm a driver. I know you're a driver.
I'm a driver.
So I think of these big, hairy, audacious goals. And sometimes it's better to just do bite-size whys. Why am I doing this thing that's challenging me to work harder or be better or accomplish more in bite-size whys? So I wanted to leave you with that in the midst of all the things.
I appreciate that. That's a good thing. Well, and and so what is it? There's something, it's a personality profile where you have 2 dominant personality profiles out of like 22. It's a book. I can't remember the name of the book.
I know I couldn't do it.
But one of mine was a driver and an achiever. And so, and the problem with the achiever is that it's never enough.
I get that. I get that for you.
Once
and
you
for
hit
me.
a goal, you're already setting another goal.
Yes.
Like
my team asks me all the time, can we celebrate?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I got the next one.
Yeah, we didn't come this far just to go this far.
That's right.
That's right. So I've got to be better about celebrating those little wins.
Yes, agreed. You and me both. Maybe we should hold each other accountable.
I know we should.
Yes.
Every month end,
Yes.
every month end, we need to go and have a cocktail or something like that.
And celebrate that month. Oh, I like that idea.
That's a good
More
idea.
drinking.
Yes.
Less stress, more drinking. Got it.
So we have a lot to cover today. So I finally got through updating all 120 slides for the detached single family update, the attached single family update, and then the 90 pages of the weekly report.
Wow.
And so
you're busy.
I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but I publish nearly 1,200 pages worth of content on a quarterly basis for you guys to use in your day-to-day business so that you can better advise your buyers and sellers. And I'm actually looking at revamping it going into the beginning of next year and adding more stuff into it because things are shifting and changing.
Yes.
And so
can we double click on that for a second?
Sure.
I can only guess I know how many hours I spend putting together all of this content. I can imagine how many hours you spend putting in addition to all of the hours spent creating the report even. I mean, that was months of work.
Yes.
Right?
Well, it was a little bit tough this month because so I pulled data on the 4th of the month. So everyone has enough time to report their closings for month end. So I pull on the 4th. And so that was Friday. And then I got my kids back on Friday night. Then I had the kids all day Saturday and Sunday, and I try really hard not to work when I have the kids because they already think that I work way too much. And so
you do.
on kid weekend, we don't work. And then Monday I had a golf tournament. Tuesday I had classes all day long. And so I was like, I've been getting up at 4 o'clock every morning to work on it for like in 3-hour chunks.
Got it.
And so I used to be able to sit and power through everything. And if I'm uninterrupted and no one calls me, and if I turn off my email, then I can get through it all in about 6 hours. Yeah. The weekly report takes about an hour and a half to get through each week. And so then I have to come up with the content for the email. Yes. And that takes an hour. Right. Because you got to determine what's the most important thing from the data sets. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's hours of work goes into this, making sure that everything's right. So guys, I'm gonna lean on you for a second. Those of you that are watching this that tune in every single week, we do this for a passion for the data. We do this to sharpen our own saws, but we also do this in measured of hours for the data so that you can better advise your buyers and clients. One, because we passionately believe in homeownership. I just passionately, I get up in the morning, excited to do what we do. I know you do too. Nobody gets up at 4 a.m. unless you really love what you do. Yes. We are passionate to serve you so that you can serve your clients. We would ask for a small favor, that especially during these times where volume is low for everyone, that you consider using the Ruth team, that you consider using First American and Megan Aller, because we do this because we have businesses like yours where unless we close a loan or title work, we don't get paid for any of this time spent. So I just want to we have so much to cover and I don't want to spend any more time here, but I do want to double click on this, that especially during these times, that even if you had an experience in the past, bring it up to us. We have very thick skin. If we messed up, let us know. Let's let us make it right to you. And if we didn't, and we just haven't had the opportunity to serve you yet, we'd love to do that as well. But I think we should challenge into the data at this point, knowing that there is so much going on. And hold on to the back end because I'm going to show you this calculator that I found that will literally blow your mind. It comes with an app as well that you can buy for $4.99. In case Saturday's blog didn't stress you out enough, this one is literally going to keep you. Yay! Oh my gosh, I need a Xanax. So let's go ahead and hop into it. And we're going to talk about the detached single family market report through the end of July really quick. And so looking at this, it's all hidden back behind, there we go, slideshow. I love it when it does that. So looking at this is for the month of July. Keep in mind, there is a write-up here on the second page for the monthly highlight reel. What I've seen a lot of agents doing is taking this, dumping it in a chat GPT and having it write like a 90-second script as to what's been happening. There's a great app that you can use on your phone as a caption. Oh yeah, it's called CapCut. And so you load your chat GPT into your CapCut, and then you can do a videotape right onto social media about what's happening in the marketplace. But I would encourage you to do that. And I write up one for the attached market, the detached market, but then also one on a weekly basis as well, so that you guys have that information. So you've got constant content that you can be going through and updating. Looking at our overall market dynamics, we ended up seeing that our active inventory rose by 17.2% going from June into July for our detached single family market, with about 4,200 homes available for sale. Pending units fell off, going by about 9.3% from June to July, with only about 2,655 units going under contract. And sold listings fell off by 14% from June to July, with about 2,500 units going under contract. Now, again, this is the shift between supply and demand that I've been talking about that happens right after July 4th, where inventory starts to grow, but buyer demand starts to peter off. We start to see softening prices, and prices tend to fall as we get into July, August, and September. And so that's the point that we're seeing right now, is that inflection point. Now I go through and I baseline all of the data against 2013 through 2019, excluding the pandemic years, because it gives us a good idea of what to expect next in terms of what our seasonal cadence looks like,
Yeah.
if it's going to improve, if it's going to continue to deteriorate. And so I put it together for you based on that. And then I fill in with the blue what the actual number came in at. And so based off of data from 2013 through 2019, we would typically have about 6,400 active units available for sale versus only having 4,200 available for sale this year. And DMAR did a great report this month for their market trends committee, and they talked about the golden handcuffs that sellers are having right now. And that basically means that, again, a lot of people went through and refied into the 2s and 3s within the last couple of years. And now they find themselves not liking their house, but they don't want to move into a smaller house for more money. And so people simply aren't listing this year. If we look at our new listing activity, new listings were down 18% from where we were back in June. And our new listing count from where we were 1 year ago is down by 27%. So again, our inventory is really tight. It continues to grow as we get into August and September. September typically represents our peak month. And then once we hit September, at the end of September, people start to withdraw their listings from the market in favor of waiting until next spring to list their homes for sale. And then we start to see inventory drop off pretty drastically as we get into October, November, and December. And then we kick our cycle back over again as we get into the next portion of the year.
This is going to make for a very intense January.
Yes.
I mean, if we're already so low and then we're going to go lower from here.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, what year was that? Was it 2020, January 2021 that we had like the lowest record inventory coming into the
We
new
have
year?
less than 3,000 between attached and detached residential.
Between the two.
Yeah, scary. Looking at where we are for pending transactions, historically in July, we put about 3,600 units under contract, whereas this year we put about 2,600 units under contract. So we're off by another 27 to 30% there in terms of pending transaction count. Now, our closed transactions, historically, we put about 4,000 units into the closed status, whereas this year we only put about 2,500 units into the closed status.
Okay.
Now, something that is interesting to note, I was looking at what we put under contract last month versus what we actually closed this month. So it's like there's a lot of stuff going under contract, but it's not all hitting the closing table.
Yeah.
And so I reached internally to see what our numbers were at First American, and we have 25% cancellation rate right now for contracts.
I don't doubt that. Like, I mean, that makes sense to me. The home costs more, the rate costs more, the monthly payment is higher, taxes went up, insurance went up.
Yeah.
If it's not perfect, I'm bailing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Buyers are getting cold feet, or they're bowing out at the inspection or the loan conditions deadline.
Yes.
And so they're getting cold feet. I had one buyer simply not show up to closing and disappear.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Just forego the earnest money.
Just forego their earnest money.
Yeah, I get that.
And so, yeah, that was,
Tough.
it took us 4 days to find that buyer to sign up on that earnest money release.
4 days.
Just completely disappeared.
Overwhelmed with stress.
I don't know.
I hope you didn't get my Saturday newsletter.
I know, but it's 25% right now. We're falling apart and then being put back on the market right now. Looking at month supply of inventory, this is the first time in 3 years that we have had our under $600,000 market above 1 month of inventory. So that signals that we're out of that multiple offer territory being imminent for those particular price ranges. And it continues to go up from there. And what I love about July, August, September, and October is this is move up home buyer season. Because those that have homes that are under $700,000 or $800,000 have extremely low inventory right now. Yeah. And more inventory at those homes that are above 1 to 1.5 million, where you can sell high on your low priced property and buy into something with a good negotiating power, get that rate bought down, get concessions, get things corrected on the property. But this is a great time to go through and be a move up buyer. Yeah.
Looking at those numbers, I mean, if you've got 1.7 months at the 600 to 800, but 4 months at 2 to 3, that's typically where they're going to be jumping up to. They've got a ton of equity. They pay down their principal, and maybe they are willing to do a little bit of work. Maybe that shag carpet doesn't scare them off.
I know. Oh, I was so dismayed. I was like, really?
You didn't fix that before you listed it?
It's just carpet.
Yeah.
And so, okay, here's our month supply of inventory broken out into the top 105 zip codes that I track. And overall, when I combined attached and detached residential, we had about 1.65 months worth of inventory. So anything that turns red or orange is going to feel more competitive than what the numbers are reporting across Metro Denver. Anything that turns green or blue is going to be less competitive. And so the more competitive areas, we had more of them to the west of I-25 than we did to the east of I-25. We did see some hotspots along the 225 corridors. You got down a little bit south into that western portion of Aurora. But Lakewood ended up, Green Mountain came in at 0.63 months worth of overall inventory. And so that was our fastest selling market right now. Average price in that market is around $750,000. I will have to tell you that Green Mountain is probably one of my favorite places to invest in.
Is it really?
I like Lakewood.
Yeah.
I like Lakewood a lot. But looking also into the rest of Lakewood, still below 1 month of inventory. Arvada ended up picking up this last month, especially in 8005. That's kind of the older part of North Arvada at 0.88 months worth of inventory, down into Englewood at 0.97. Some portions of Highlands Ranch are still below 1 month worth of inventory, but we were looking out at by the airport. In North Aurora, you have 3.5 to 4 months worth of inventory out there.
Okay.
So again, that element of new construction coming in, and people are trending towards that new construction over purchasing resale. And Sterling Ranch down south, down by Chatfield Reservoir, was 2.26 months worth of inventory. Coolers, you got down into Castle Rock, Castle Pines, and Larkspur at 2 to 2.5 months worth of inventory there. Also, interestingly enough, Highlands, West Highlands sitting at 2 months of inventory now. So that market is cooled, where we've seen those prices really skyrocket over the last couple of years. And now people are being priced out of those markets. We can't skip over Loadout, that little blue dot right here in the middle of the map.
It really is kind of hidden. It's very tiny.
Yes, it's very tiny, but it is very impacted right now. And in that market, we have 9.2 months worth of inventory. So that means that that is truly a buyer's market.
Yeah.
For every one buyer in that market, they have 9 different condos to choose from right now. So there's not a lot of pressure on those people to get stuff under contract or to move quickly on things.
Yeah.
And so you'll notice that if you look at the attached residential report, we're looking at detached right now. But when we look at month supply of inventory, when you go over $1 million, where the majority of those condos that are listed are in that downtown Denver market, we're sitting at like 10 months worth of inventory right now. Okay.
Well, there's so much construction. I mean, 16th Street Mall is under construction. I mean, and you've got, of course, the homeless population. You got the boulders that they've moved in. I mean, there's just so much that work that needs to be done.
Yep.
And an increase in inventory.
Yep.
And the new builds.
So let's skip ahead. We'll look at the odds of selling. So the odds of selling, we're still dealing with sellers. And I've said this several times on this market update. We're dealing with sellers that think that it's 2022, and we're dealing with buyers that thinks that it's 2008. And so it is nothing in between there. It's actually proving to be better than our pandemic or our initial run up in the market, where we were between 2013 through 2019. But here's where we were looking at back right after the pandemic, where we had 2% and 3% interest rates. The odds of selling ended up peaking out in 2021 at 87.5% odds of selling.
Shag carpet or not.
Shag carpet or not, did not matter. Just give me a house, right? And so now we're coming down off of that peak. We ended up having quite a bit of a recession last year in terms of housing inventory, where we dropped from being over 80% odds of selling through the end of 2022, where it dropped down to about a 45% odds of selling, ran back up again this year. We sat at about a 64% overall odds of selling as we got into April, and now it's starting to slide back down again, as it does seasonally. And so it slid by 7% going into July, down to 52.3%. The odds of selling is basically where I take into account all of the available listings for sale versus those that go under contract and close in the same month. And that's the likelihood of your home selling during that month. Odds of selling historically for the month of July is 52%. We were at 52.3%, so slightly better. And if you notice, during the first half of this year, we were actually higher and better than what we had historically benchmarked from 2013 through 2019. And so I thought that was kind of interesting to see. Now, going into the next couple of months, it continues to slide. September is typically the hardest month to get a home under contract in. So headed into September, we see a 47.8% overall odds of selling. And then October, November, and December, we roughly stabilize at 49.5% to 50% overall odds of selling. No surprise here, odds of selling were highest and best at lowest price points, with the exception of that $0 to $200,000 mark. Again, there was probably like 4 homes in that particular price
I
range.
can't even imagine what they are.
No.
Yeah.
And so, but overall, about 60% odds of selling under $600,000, 40 to 50 between 1 million to about 600,000, 30%, 35% between 1.5 to 2 million, 2 to 3 million at 29.2, about 23% overall odds of selling between 3 and 5 million, and a 15.6% odds of selling for over 5 million right now. Odds of selling again, highest and best in Green Mountain for 80228 at a 76.6% overall odds of selling, lowest in Lodo at 18.8% overall odds of selling. Now, what was interesting to me about this last month is the total number of showings actually went up this last month. And so we set more showings in the month of July than we did in June.
Interesting.
But we put less
Getting
units under contract.
Super picky.
Yeah,
That's
but
what
getting
that is.
super picky.
Yeah.
And so we ended up seeing the total showing went up by 1.1% with about 49,500 total showings that were set. That means you're getting about 6.7 shows per property per month. Based off of shows to contracts, we were looking at about 14 showings to go under contract based off of data from last month. And that's rung true for what I've been seeing in the weekly data as well. Days depending, we held fast at 22 average days on market, 9 median days on market, but it's still 46.7% of all the homes were under contract in 7 days or less. That did cool from June by about 5.4%, but overall that's still pretty dang fast.
Yeah.
For a
Agreed.
lot of those homes to go under
Agreed.
contract that quickly. Usually in July, we see about 23 average days on market. We were right there at 22. Notice as we get later into the end of the year, the time on market roughly doubles by the time that you list in December.
Sellers are going to be anxious.
Yes. So patience
yes.
is key headed into the end of the year.
Yes.
Don't reduce your prices too quickly. Pay really close attention to your showings and making sure that you're getting your target number of showings each week. But don't reduce your prices quickly as we head into the end of the year. Exercise patience. Median days on market is historically 8. We were at 9, so not too bad. We were a little bit longer, but only by 1 day. Average days on market broken out by price range. We were below 1 month of 1 month on the market, up to 2 million. 2 to 4 million was about 40 average days on market. 4 to 5 million and 5 million or more, somewhere between 70 average days on market. Fastest selling homes right here in the red zone. We were looking at these homes that were in the red zone along the south side of Metro Denver. On the inner landlocked ring suburbs were selling the fastest, somewhere between 4 and 14 days on market. Also another little hot spot up here at the top, Westminster, Thornton, North Glen, 12 to 15 average days on market. Westminster was with 14. That's the second month in a row that Westminster has been popping.
I wonder if it's affordability.
It could be. It definitely could be. Longer days on market, Sterling Ranch, Castle Rock, 71 average days on market out by the airport. Lodo, actually not too bad for those units that did close. It came in at about 50 average days on market for that particular area. For units under contract in 7 days or less, historically, we see about 49.1% under contract in the first weekend. We were at 46.7. The likelihood of you going under contract in the first weekend dwindles to 31% by the time that you hit December. Let's look at sold price ratio. So again, we had a mini recession that we went through last year where our prices peaked out in April of 2022 at $810,000. Then it slid all the way back down. We dropped down to about a $700,000 average sales price by the time that we ended up in, it was January of this year. Now we've started to climb again, but we've hit our seasonal peak in the month of June. Average prices fell by 1.9% as expected going into July, but year over year, we are now up 0.3%. So we have regained almost everything that we have lost. So that's good news.
It is.
Looking at where we are for average prices and how they ebb and flow each month, we ended up running up our average sales price 10.9% by the time that we hit July. We gave 1.9% of that back in July. So year to date, we're up about 9% overall since the beginning of the year. Looking at close to list price ratios, we came in at 100% of our close to list price ratio, but our original to close price ratio was 98.8%. So that means that we're starting to see more price reductions in there right now. Usually in the month of July, we see 100% of our last asking price. And we start to see that dwindle as we go through the end of the year. So we were right on pace with where we should have been. Still, some zones are reporting over 100% of their last asking price, most notably between $400,000 to $800,000, slightly over last asking price. But negotiating power exists for those homes that are 1.5 to 5 million, where we're seeing those go for under asking price right now. So again, move up buyers, you can sell high and have negotiating power as you move up. Areas that were hot for close to list price ratio. Out in Conifer and Pine, we saw 101.4. Over here into the eastern edge of Littleton, the south end of Denver, kind of over by Centennial and Inglewood, was 102.3. Over here in the Baker neighborhood was also well over 100%. Northeast Denver at 101.3%. Into North Bend, 101.5%, but cooler down here into Larkspur at 98.5%. 99-ish% down here in Castle Rock area and Parker, also into Centennial. And look at this, it turns blue and green as we get into central Denver, looking at some of those neighborhoods, but University and Wash Park down to 98%. So some negotiating power there as well. I'm still a big fan. If you price it right the first time, it's going to sell faster and for more money. 101.4% of your original price if you price it right the first time, and it goes under contract in the first 7 days. Again, that's still 47% of everything is going under contract in 7 days. But if you're on the market for 2 weekends, you're down to 98.8% of your original price. Weekend number 3, 97.3%. Days 22 to 28, 96.4, 1 to 2 months, 94.1, 2 to 3 months, 93.4. And if you're on the market 3 months or more, it's 90.2% of your original price.
That's a steep discount.
It is. Multiple offer analysis tracking what's going for over asking price. It fell by about 3.9% this last month. We saw that 37.2% sold for over asking price, 37.4% sold for a full price offer, and 25.3% sold for under asking price. When we looked at multiple offers, the most multiple offers were up here in this $2 to $3 million mark, where it was 66% of them sold for over asking price. 3 to 4 million was 58.3, 4 to 5 million was 60%, and 5 million or more was 66.7% selling for over asking price. More negotiating power coming in at full price offers at lower price ranges and median price ranges. Where we saw the most multiple offers was out in Northeast Denver at 67.4% of them selling for over asking price. It's also 67.4 up into North Glen. Looking out here to the west of I-25, you're seeing most commonly 40 to 50% selling for over asking price until you hit those foothills communities. Looking to the central Denver area, we're seeing only about 18 to 20% selling for over asking price. Lowest was Lodo at 6.7% of the homes sold for over asking price, and then down here into Larkspur only 9.1. How far over asking price depends on your price range, but we were looking at about 3% over asking price on all price ranges. More at higher price points for those multiple offers, somewhere between 8 to 9% over asking price once you're over 3 million.
So while you have more negotiating power at the higher price ranges, what we're seeing is for those homes that are priced right, staged right, perfect, they're going for well over asking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They sure are. So it would behoove you to remove the shag carpet.
It would. It would. I mean, that spoke really, I mean, it's almost like a divergence because you think, well, I can get a good deal there, but it's specific to the type of home.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely. This shows how far over asking price you have to go in order to win the offer. Hotter on the west side of I-25, cooler on the east side of I-25, and down into the south and east portions of town. There were a few multiple offers that happened out here south of the airport, but they ended up pushing up to 7.5% over asking price if they were in a multiple offer. Same thing if you were in a multiple offer situation out in the foothills communities, about 5 to 5.5% over asking price. Getting into North Lakewood, 5% over. Again, that portion of Littleton, this is out by you, 5% over asking price. And then also as we got into Cherry Creek North, we saw significantly over asking price, but every place else is bouncing between about 1 to 3% over asking price overall. Price reductions, we ended up seeing that 31% of all the homes that closed in the month of July ended up making price reductions. So we are seeing more price reductions than what we've seen historically this year than we saw from 2013 through 2019. It was 24.2 is what we would typically see. We saw 31. Price reductions tend to grow as we get into the end of the year. Where we saw the most price reductions was between 800 to $1 million at 38.4% of those homes reducing their price. Here's how many, this is price reductions by zip code. And so we saw out by the airport that 73.9% of those listings that closed in July ended up making price reductions, versus over here in Lakewood, about 13.5%, down into Centennial, Greenwood Village, 12 to 14% reducing their price, 8.3% reduced their prices. You got down here into Southeast Denver, and more price reductions out here as we get down into the eastern edge of Aurora at 45%, around 40% in North Denver and Rhino. Getting into Highlands, West Highlands, 42% had to reduce their price, and up into Brighton, about 43.6% had to reduce their price.
And the price reductions don't mean that we're losing value. I mean, I had this conversation with a real estate agent on social, in fact, I mean, because you're seeing the average price was up 10% this year, right? And overall, we're looking at appreciation smaller. It's like 1.5%, a little less than that on true appreciation here in Denver.
Sure.
So, but it's a recalibration of sellers' expectations, is what you're seeing in the higher price reductions.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, and we all got so used to not having to make price reductions or having price reduction be their only motive to get a property sold.
Yes.
And so I think that people resort to making a price reduction too soon.
Okay.
And I think that sellers are panicky when they're not under contract by weekend number 2 or 3. And they start to see their showings dwindle. And I would encourage them to exercise patience. Usually wait until weekend number 3 before you start making a price reduction. But the price reductions are big too.
Yeah.
And so we saw a 5.4% price reduction, whereas historically we'd only see a 4.7% price reduction. Bigger price reductions at the higher end of the market. We actually saw a 21.8% price reduction here in that $3 to $4 million mark, whereas other price points we're seeing somewhere between 5 to 9.5% price reductions. This is the size of the price reduction broken out by zip code. What's kind of interesting about this is in the more expensive areas, you're going to see larger price reductions because we're talking in this area here, home prices, Cherry Hills Village, you're looking at, $2 to $5 million houses. They need to reduce their price by 10% in order to get an offer.
Right.
Versus in some of the other areas, hotter spots up in Rhino, only a 1.6% price reduction to go under contract, versus the foothills, we're looking at about a 6 to 7% price reduction. Distressed transactions, we had one short sale.
I was gonna ask.
And we had one HUD property.
There you go.
And so again, we're not expecting this huge wave of distressed transactions to flood back into the market because people are too flush with equity.
Yes.
It's just not likely to happen. Keep in mind in the very back of the report, there is a zip code index that you can review. So if you need to do a buyer consultation or a listing consultation and you want to know what's happening in your zip code, I've got everything lined out for you here. And did I go over time? I went over time by 5 minutes and I didn't even touch my weekly report.
We talked a lot.
Yeah, we did.
Do you
And
need to
so,
highlight a couple things on that report?
No, I'll send that out with my notes in
Okay.
the market update.
Okay.
Some questions. So I know the 25 cancellation is specific to your office, but is that also just for the month of July? Yes, that is for the month of July. And so that is what we saw last month.
Mhm.
And so, because I was having a conversation with my boss, I was like, I've got a ton of orders coming in, but I'm not seeing it reflected in my paycheck. It's not going up as high as I think it is. And so it's like, what's our cancellation rate? And how many more policies do I have to sell in order to get back to where I need to be?
Yeah. It's like
It's
the
like,
conversion rate for
uh-huh.
sales. You
Yeah.
gotta be thinking about that. Yep.
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 And so did you say prices are up 9% for the year? So from February so from January to now,
Yes.
home prices have gone up 9%.
And that's the average,
That's the
right? So it's
average.
not appreciation, and then it will drop down for the total year.
Yes. That zip code by the airport appears a very cool zip code in one of the metrics, I think close to list price ratio, but a very hot zip code when measuring something else. I forget. Can you elaborate? So that was multiple offers. There were very few multiple offers, but the multiple offers that did happen ended up turning that zip code red because they went for significantly over asking price. Can you help me make sense of it? Yes, I just did. And then thank you. You are welcome. And we'll turn it over to Nicole.
I love you guys. It's so fun. All right. Well, let's jump into the back half and what's really kind of happening in the economy. Going to jump in. Let me share. It's like got a peek around. Oh gosh, darn it. I do this every time. You do it much more smoothly. I don't. I don't. I'm like riddled with tasks. It's how many steps does it take to share a screen? It's a lot. All right, so let's just jump into what's happening in the economy. So one of the things that came out was the Fannie Mae report that showed a record number of 82% of consumers reported that it's a bad time to buy. You can't tell me you're not feeling that. I know we're all feeling that. 82% of consumers are thinking it's a bad time. Doesn't mean 82% aren't buying, but we already know 64% of active buyers are waiting for interest rates to drop. And then you have other people who are waiting for the bubble to burst. There's so many details that you could continue to bring to market, whether it's on social media, whether in your newsletter, whether in your email drips, talking about the strength of the real estate market. And that's where I wanted to actually spend some of my time here today, is talking about that. Because when I saw that, I was like, holy smack, it's going to be a long year. Right.
I feel like this has been the longest week ever.
Yes, it's been
the longest week ever. Yesterday I was like, it's only Wednesday.
I know.
Holy cow.
I know. And we both have tremendously crazy days today. So it's not gonna make it go by. Maybe it'll go by faster. I just think it's gonna be a long day.
It'll pass. It's just, why so many back to school things? I've had 4 this week, 4 back to school events.
Yes. You were mentioning that. I don't miss those days, I'm gonna say.
It's crazy.
Yes.
And you don't want to miss out on any of them because the
No.
kids want to go.
Right.
So I got to take them.
You have to date them. You have to date them. All right. So 82% of consumers think it's a bad time to buy. Interestingly enough, based on the same month of data, different data sets, of course, but based on the same month of data, consumer confidence in personal financial matters is at a 2-year high. So it's not a good time to buy, but we're going to spend money. In fact, credit cards topped $1 trillion in debt for the first time ever. That's a big number.
Stop, guys.
Stop spending.
Stop spending.
I had a conversation with a very good friend of mine, and he was like, I'm still living like it was last year.
Yes.
But my income is not keeping up.
Yes.
So I'm deeply tapping into my savings accounts.
Oh no.
And I'm like, you cannot spend that much every single month.
Can't do that.
So, but people are.
Uh-huh.
And so credit card debt is over $1 trillion. So this is going to start to impact your buyers, especially your first-time home buyers, when we know that student loans are now going to become due. Interest starts accruing in September, and the first payment is due October 1st. So when that happens, and I've got this continuing debt, because this article goes in to break down based on income brackets, how much debt people are carrying for extended periods of time. And it is awful. And even like up to over $100,000 of income earners, they're still keeping debt on their credit cards every month over month over month for a year to 2 years. So this is something that is going to impact your buyers, especially if they have this and then the student loans coming due. So being aware of the conversations, and then going back, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, and I know I put it in one of the Saturday blogs as well, as far as talking to your student loan holders about getting in front of it, because next July they can actually reduce their IBR payments in half, but they got to get in on the list because it's a first come, first served basis, and you want your buyers to be able to afford more next summer. So housing affordability is a real struggle. We're seeing purchase applications are down for the 4th week in a row. I didn't like that stat.
I don't like that.
I didn't like that
hate
stat.
the back half of the year.
I know, I do too.
Oh,
And it's already kind of a weird year. I mean, that's all I can say. It's just been a weird year. It's just been, I don't even know how you define it. We're heading back towards a new normal, but the backside of that is, it feels awkward and painful, but you have to do this. It's like the pendulum swing or the pirate ship at the Six Flags.
Yeah.
Great. That's out of my mind. I love that. Okay, so purchase apps are down again, another 3% week over week. Rates are stuck. In fact, right now, that 10-year treasury is stuck just over 4%. It started to alleviate a little bit based on the news this morning on CPI, which I'll get to in a minute. And then it went right back up over 4%. So we're seeing that rates now are just stuck right there over 7 instead of just under 7. So hopefully that'll come back down again. But we're going to talk a little bit about the new bond rating and what that might do to interest rates as well. So home price index has been going up though. So I know you talk about the median and the average.
Mhm.
So this is your appreciation. So this is actually the home price index, that individual home, every time it turns over to determine the real value of homes. And it's actually been going up. The Denver market is up 1.3% through May. So to see this, we did bottom in January, we started to turn up in February, and then we've been going up. Now, all the year over years don't look as good because it had hit its height last May, because that's when interest rates started going up. So our values started slowing down. So we're on the trajectory back, but where we land, a little over flat, right?
Yeah.
So, which I'm not complaining about. It's positive, and everybody's talking about the bubble bursting. It's not happening, and it's not going to happen. In fact, interestingly enough, national appreciation. So we're here in the Denver market, and that's just Denver Metro, is up 1.3% appreciation. National is actually continuing to hit record highs. So if I go back to this chart, if I go to the national HPI, the home price index, it actually is back up over where it was last spring, and it's starting to head higher again. In fact, these red numbers are where we're hitting the highest value yet. Now, these are 5 different appreciation data aggregators, if you will, right? They all have their slightly different spin on it. You just choose one and go with it, because honestly, you don't want to keep going back and forth. You just kind of want to choose the one that you're tracking so that you can tend where the trends are going. But they're looking at a pretty hefty pace if I take these numbers and multiply them by 2. Now, we know home prices go down the second half of the year, so I'm not expecting it to land that high, but that's certainly higher than what we've been seeing. This is going to continue, because if I look at national inventory, and we know our inventory, we just talked about how low it is compared to what it was over the, what was it, 2012 to 19?
200.
Yes.
I caught it. That's contagious.
It is contagious.
It's contagious.
13 to
2013 through 19.
That's right.
Yeah.
Our inventory is low here as well. It's low everywhere. And you got to know that the national housing strength ripples into all markets. There are going to be specific markets that are going to weather the storm better or worse, but overall the strength, all boats rise with the tide kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we're looking at low inventory nationwide, that's impacting because people are running out of choices. You can't just easily leave Denver and go to Kansas City. So when you talk about existing home inventory for this continuing increasing population, you've got to know that this isn't something that's going to change overnight. In fact, if I look at the population by age group, it's not going to change for 2 decades. I mean, we've got this now, it does slump a little bit, but we've got this overall higher lift of birth rates for the next 2 decades, from 34 years old to 14. So those kids who are 13, that's where we're going to start seeing the drop off. So if you're going to be in real estate for the next 2 decades, buckle up, but you got to get through this. This is the bite size wise, right? You just got to get through this. You got to have that focus and those goals in front of you that you can achieve without being overwhelmed by all the stuff that's happening right now, because we've got an incredibly strong housing market and it's going to continue to be strong. So, and interestingly enough, so Black Knight just came out with a report this week talking about the fact, look at this, like this is the national numbers, right? The national equity gain in America's homes is growing again. So this is an 80%, they call it a net equity, like what, or tappable equity, what you could literally pull cash out if you did a cash out refinance, which is limited to 80% loan to value. This gray is a total equity. So despite outstanding mortgage debt actually pushing above 13 trillion for the first time, total equity went above 16 trillion, which is just shy of the overall historic high. So we are almost at the height of equity. Guys, this is the benefit, like taking this data, taking Megan's data and how we were breaking out what it means to be a move up buyer right now, what it means to reach maybe into a different zip code. Maybe you're moving into one of those zip codes that are a buyer zip code, right? Mm-hmm. Because it's a school you want to be in, or it's a location, or it's by your work. I mean, take advantage of knowing which zip codes are hot or cool, knowing what areas to move into, knowing that you can show that buyer that this is the opportunity, because that equity is not, we're not going to give back what we've gained. Mm-hmm. That's the bottom line. Mm-hmm. The bottom line is at some point, wages will become enough to help affordability. Interest rates will come down a little bit to help affordability, but home prices are not going to drop substantial enough to increase that affordability. What we've got to do is we got to jump on the train, and the sooner you jump on, the further you get to go. If you wait until the end of the line, you're just not going to have enough time to build the kind of equity that we're seeing in homes. So, of course, these numbers, I mean, I'm looking at these numbers, 1.6 is the current year over year. I mean, it's not the, what was it, 11, 17, 23% that we saw in the last couple of years. They're not what we are used to, but they are definitely going back to what is normal. So real estate is still strong. I had this feeling that I needed to sum up just a couple of data. I literally could make pages of data facts on why real estate continues to be strong. You need to be armed with this stuff, whether you're in line at the grocery store, you're at the party, you're talking to the buyer, you're talking to the seller. Why is now a good time? Now is not as good a time as it was 3 years ago. But unless you can wind back time, which I can't, now is as good a time as any, because that appreciation is continuing. 66% of Americans own homes. That's a home ownership rate right below. 38% of the homes are paid in full. And of those that are mortgaged, 82%, 82.5% are locked in under 5. They're not going anywhere. They're holding on to them. They're turning them into rentals. They're giving them to their kids. They're selling them in their family, right? They're keeping those, and they're going to pay them off quicker. The average loan to value today is 44.8%. That takes all mortgages into all values. That's less than the 52.5% pre-pandemic. We have a stronger market today than we did then. Only 0.42% of all homes nationwide are in foreclosure. 3.12% are in default. Again, way low numbers. In fact, Colorado is even better than that. In fact, it's the second from the bottom. Only Washington is beating us with a stronger market. We have only 1.8% of our homes are in delinquency and 0.1% in foreclosure, which goes to Megan's point. We had one HUD sale, one distressed, right?
One short sale, one
short
HUD.
sale. Yes. So we're just not seeing that. All right, so let's jump over to the economics real quick. So CPI came out this morning. Headline went up, core went down. The headline went up due to a relational number, which I'm going to show you in just a second. So it actually went up from 3% to 3.2. And then the core, which is the sticky, which is really what we're watching, it dropped barely from 4.8 to 4.7. So if I break these down, the headline, if I look at last year, it was below 0. We replaced that with a 0.2, which made us pop up again from 3% to 3.2. This was actually expected. It was expected to go up to 3.3. It actually only went up to 3.2. So this is good, although the markets didn't celebrate it. So we're not seeing lower interest rates or a big celebration. It's just like a, okay. Well, let's just settle in and watch the data for the next couple of months. And we're starting to see that the estimates for the next Fed increase has been pushed from September to November. I actually don't like that. I wish it would be in September. I'd rather get it over with. If you push it into November, you're going to push it right into our winter and spring months. when we start seeing home sales increase. But if there's more fear in the market and we see that the Fed rate and the 30-year fixed rate aren't tied neck and neck, but if you see more fear, you see the Fed's getting aggressive, we might see that might keep rates longer through the rest of the year and maybe even to the beginning of next year. So core CPI did go down because we actually had a 0.3% last year that we replaced with a 0.2. So that's why we saw it dip down just barely. That core is really good news because that's the sticky stuff that we're watching. A big part of what kept these both higher is shelter. 43.5% of the core inflation rate is made up of shelter, and shelter actually went slightly up this last month. Not much, but slightly. It is still lower than last year. And if you look last year, we peaked out still a couple of months from now. So we still have the opportunity to see that shelter break down. So whereas this month was flat, we have the opportunity over the next couple of months to see inflation coming down again. Interestingly enough, there were some big drops. Airlines were down 8.1%. Is that all the summer travel's done? Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
Everybody's back to school. I found this article, and this is just a double click kind of thing, which is really interesting to me because Minneapolis actually proved that they can lower the cost of shelter. Their shelter increases is the lowest across the country. They took an old manufacturing plant for cars, for automobiles, scraped that, and they're building low income housing. And so they're creating more supply and creating a lower need for rent increases, which is really interesting just to see that cities can actually control some of this. And Denver seems to be doing some of the opposite right now with some of the zoning regulations and certainly some of the landlord regulations that are going into place. But it can be done. All right, the other report that came out, initial jobless claims hit the highest level in 5 weeks. This is good news for interest rates. Again, it didn't move the market today. I think between CPI coming in a little bit lower than expected and initial jobless claims coming in a little higher than expected, they somewhat canceled each other out and we went into a sidewards motion. So initial jobless claims, though, is showing that we are seeing layoffs, which in essence means that we are going to see wage slowdown and we are going to see economic slowdown. Yet the continuing claims actually dipped just slightly, which says that those people are finding other jobs very quickly. And we know that because we have like 1.6 jobs per unemployed person. So that came out this morning. And then the Fitch downgrade happened. So Fitch is one of the 3 indexes that rate or rank, I should say, all businesses and countries. So for the United States, we were one of the few that had the AAA rating, and for Fitch, they dropped us down to the AA rating. And some of the reasons that they noted were the higher rates, aging population, debt to GDP ratio, and a dysfunctional government. So I was like, well, that's not surprising. So I feel like they're a little late to the party because we had this like debt ceiling crisis, which has already kind of come and gone. Yet they're saying that we don't like the fact that we are on track for spending 10% of our federal revenue on interest by 2025. This is going to continue to retract on our ability to spend, and it's going to force the yields that we need to get on treasuries higher. And this is what I'm afraid of with the Fitch, and what I'm just going to continue watching. Is nothing that's going to happen next week or even this month. But if the treasuries, so they're already talking about the fact that the treasury is wanting to sell an additional, or what's the word? Issue is the word I was looking for. Issue another $2 trillion in treasuries, which is a lot in the next 6 months. So at the beginning of the year, they talked about issuing 1.6 trillion total. Now they're talking about issuing 2 trillion to help with some of this debt. If they oversupply the market, that imbalance is going to create a situation that could keep yields higher for longer. So we're just going to have to watch where this goes over the next 6 months, watching how much the Treasury does in fact issue, watching what it does with the yields. And then those yields, those 10-year Treasury yields, are going to impact our interest rates. So I don't know if I'm on the train that says that we're going to see 5.25 by the end of this year if all of this continues to unfold.
I don't think we will.
There's so much to continue to watch. So all you got to do is keep talking to your buyers about what's affordable today with the interest rates today, right? And then ideally we'll have a refinance opportunity, but I don't know how quickly it's going to happen. All right, so here it is. So I found a website. It's called the usdebtclock.org. So if you actually go to the website, these numbers are all moving constantly. These numbers are tracking the amount of debt that we are holding as a country, the amount of income that we have. We actually have a deficit bigger than our defense spending, which I saw that and I was like, wait a minute. And our GDP now, so our federal debt to GDP ratio is 120%. In 1960, it was 52%. It's double that. You can't run a household like that.
Mhm.
Now, governments aren't exactly like households, but if you geek out on this kind of stuff, and I found this website, you can download the app if you just can't be away from the information. It's only $4.99. I refuse to put this thing on my phone because I will literally drive myself crazy. But to watch how much we have as a deficit in our budget today, 1.7 trillion, that's a lot, which is why the Treasury is talking about issuing 2 trillion in securities in order to manage some of this deficit, which is going to have an impact. If they do that, is going to have an impact on our yields because that much of a supply is going to drop prices, which increases yields. So we're going to continue to watch that. All right, really quickly, just want to jump through a couple things because I am a lender. Megan, you do title.
I do title. I am a commission-based rep.
Yes, me too. We don't get paid unless we close.
Yep.
But really quickly, a couple of the conversations that I've been having most frequently today, and I don't want to dive into any of these, I just want to tap on them. But some of the most impactful conversations that I've been having is the fact that there is still down payment assistance programs available for somebody who makes over 200,000. It's actually 200,800. It's 160% of the area median income. So that's the area median income here in Denver times 160%, 1.6. So 208,000. So, and I'm having clients. You should have a savings account if you make 200,000, but not everybody does. Right? It's like my good friend that was spending more than he's making. So if you don't have a savings account and you want to get into a home and you want to start building equity and you need down payment assistance to put you into that better position, then this is a product that we need to be talking about. We also have DSCR programs, not just for investors W-2 or to avoid pot, marijuana, or other things, but now DSCR programs for short-term investing. So we can actually use 100% of the short-term rental income, which that's massive because it's way higher than long-term rental income. Again, not jumping into that. And then we're continuing to put this out on social as far as the rate drop assurance. When rates eventually drop, we know eventually they will, we will be refinancing all of our clients that purchased with us and removing all the lender fees, saving a lot of money for all of our clients. And then let's talk about next week. We're going to be back in person.
That's right.
It's next week
in person. Rag and Vale.
Rag
downtown
and Vale.
By, Meow Wolf.
It is right by Meow Wolf.
Yep.
We're flying in Kristen Messerly. She's talking about how to market to Gen Z, and we are dangerously close to sold out.
Yeah, I'll be surprised if we're not sold out after my e-blast yesterday.
We might be. I didn't check it since yesterday morning.
Yeah.
So we might be. If you are, if you do see that it's sold out, get on the waiting list and we'll let you know if anything opens up. But I'm excited to do this in person. And we've got a stack of folks that we're going to be talking to the rest of the year, bringing once a month, doing an in-person event. So that's it. Let's see if we've got anything. Did I stop share? I did.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Just a couple questions. Becky, thank you. Always great information.
Usually we recommend waiting until Labor Day to list a property versus now in August. Is that not the case anymore? Yeah, I would still encourage them to get to market as soon as possible because your pool of potential buyers is bigger.
Yeah.
Your average days on market is shorter.
Yes.
And so I would get to market sooner before Labor Day weekend because things really start to get distracted as we get into Labor Day weekend. Average showings per week this last week was, I think it was 2.2 shows per property per week. It was 2.1 or 2.2. Is real estate a strong slide nationwide or local data?
So the overall data was nationwide. And then we dipped into the local data after that.
Awesome data, ladies. Thanks. It's our pleasure. We love to do this. Where can I download the presentation? We will be sending out the slides a little bit later today. So if you registered for this webinar, you are now forever on our email distribution list.
Yes.
And so we will email you until one of us dies. So you will get a copy of that along with a recorded version of today's presentation this afternoon. And so we will get that out to you guys. How do you you feel about listing the weekend after Labor Day? Avoid Labor Day. Nothing happens on Labor Day
Right.
weekend. The odds of selling goes down like 10%. Shows per property per week goes down to like 1.
But if you're a buyer,
But if you're a buyer, it's a great time
you
to be
should go out on Labor Day.
You should go out on
Yes.
Labor Day. But listing after Labor Day
Yes.
weekend definitely is going to be better. And so September is still tough in terms of the overall odds of selling. It does improve as you get into October, but by the time you get into October, you're looking at longer days on market, lower close to list price ratios.
You're looking at a
All of
very
that.
anxious seller is what you're
Yes.
looking at.
Yes.
Anxiety is coming your way if you wait until the fall.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
we got 2 more questions that popped up. How do I get Meow Wolf tickets? See you next week. I sent it out. If you were on my distribution, I sent it out yesterday in an email. Shoot me an email or shoot Nicole an email and we can get those over to you for the registration. And so thank you for all your hard work putting these reports together and presenting. The kindest thank you is the referral of business.
Yes.
So please consider us for your upcoming transactions and let us know how we can help. We will not have a recording next week,
Right.
since we will be out and about at the venue. So we'll
Yep,
be at Bragg and
Vale.
Vale downtown. And so after that, we will return to this in 2 weeks with our
Yep.
regularly scheduled presentation.
That's right.
The kids will be back in school.
Yes. Well, that'll
Yeah.
be good though
Uh-huh.
for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
For everyone,
Yeah.
maybe.
My kid cost in the summertime
Oh, I'm sure it's through the
is
roof.
so expensive.
Yes.
It's so expensive. So I am looking forward to just having the kid cost and the aftercare cost.
Yes.
Yes,
Just get in school.
that will
And
be
then
great.
we're not going to be doing a presentation on Labor Day week, correct?
No, we are
Okay.
not. We are
So
taking
just
Labor Day week off.
talking a little bit further
So
down.
getting ahead of that.
Well,
Awesome.
you want to close this down?
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Done.
Thanks so much for tuning
Yes.
in, and we'll catch you guys next week in person, and we'll see you in 2 weeks back online. If you need anything, feel free to reach out to us, Megan Aller with First American Title and Nicole Ruth at Movement Mortgage. Bye, guys. Have a great rest of your week.